start. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here. Today, I was just saying we are going to break into small breakout rooms for the first 45 minutes so you have time to connect with one another about how it's going for you in your practicum classes. I put together a Google Doc that I'll share with you that has, a Jamboard that has some prompting questions, but you don't have to use those. They were just questions I threw together to help kind of steer the conversation. But like I said, this is all about you and having space. So I'm not going to do what works best for you. And then at 1:45, I'm going to, well, maybe I'll bring everybody back for a few minutes earlier. And then at 1:45, we're going to have West Ed come because they are looking for feedback from higher ed. And Faith Polk is going to come and lead us through starting a conversation with West Ed about their virtual class. So if you can, please stay for all of it. They really need to hear your voice. And if you can't, we know we're glad you're here for the time you are. So thank you for coming today. Is there anyone that wants to share anything before we get started?
Did anyone hear from Fresno State? I was told that, not Fresno State, Fresno Unified is not allowing new observation students into their classrooms. Anybody hear anything like that? I just got the notice today.
Hey, Carol, I did, obviously because Fresno, but that they're not allowing lab students of any kind into any of their programs right now because of COVID.
Yeah.
Everything's still on hold. And so it's the question of how do we get our education students in to do their practicum and our early childhood students.
Right. Thanks, Marcy. Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to be something that we're going to want to talk about. So I will open up the breakout rooms. You have the ability to move around the breakout rooms, so please feel free to go and join conversations that are fruitful for you. I'm putting in the chat box right now a Jamboard, and you are welcome to, like I said, use those questions to help guide your conversations. And if not, it's up to you. This is your time, so do what you need. Talk to people about what you need to talk about. So I'm just glad you're here. So if there isn't anything else, let's hold on to our virtual seats and away we go. You should be able to just pick a room, any room. If you need help, I'll move people around, but.
Hi, Rachel. Can you put me somewhere because I'm on an iPhone and I can't find a breakout room option?
Of course, Lila.
Thank you, Rachel.
Do you hear your voice?
It's so good to see you and hear your voice. I miss you.
I miss you too.
Rachel, I don't have any breakout room option either.
No? Okay, let me move you. Where would you like? Do you have a choice or do you want me to just move you
No,
somewhere?
anywhere. I don't have choice.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, now, thank you.
Same for me.
And same
Well,
for me.
Okay. Arlene, you need to be moved somewhere. I'm just randomly picking rooms.
It's okay.
Okay, who else needs it? Ann Horgan? Where
Yes,
is-
thank you.
You're
And the
welcome.
same for me, Annie Miro.
Annie Miro.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
Hi, all sorry I'm late. I think, are you guys going into rooms?
Yes, we opened up breakout rooms and
I guess you could send me to one.
you want me to send you to one?
Sure, I mean,
Okay. There you go.
thank you.
Let's see, I'm going to assume you might want to go to a breakout. Okay. There. Did it not work for you, Carol? Oh, there you go.
Kind of fascinating. And I would not have been able to go to the meeting if it wasn't high flex. Because I was at the Child Development Center and something happened and it was like, well, I can't leave, but hey, I can throw the computer on while I'm in the kitchen getting snack ready.
Rachel, can I ask you to put the link in the chat for the resources? I know you guys have lots of resources, and one of our group members were asking for the resources.
So I put in the
Like
website right there.
videos, yeah. Mhm.
It's, am I on mute? Oh, no. It's the ECE Faculty Collective. This was a website that we developed last year that has any resources that have been shared. Well, I will be honest, the past couple of months, I haven't gotten resources up on the website, but any resources up until the last couple of months that have been shared with me have been put on there. If you want, I can take a couple of minutes to show you the website real quick. Let me share my screen. Here we go. So there's a place, if you do have something you want to have added on here, you can click on the Google Doc or you could just email me directly. Here's a bunch of current resources that were related to topics we've been talking about. And then we have more current resources here. For each of the courses, we have links to resources shared in these meetings. The first ones will always be the OER resources that Jennifer Paris has worked on, but then anything else in any of these sections have been shared with us by faculty. So I would encourage you to take a minute to look through them. There are so many good resources there. And then we have a bunch of ZTC and OER resources. We have a couple of our past coffee chats where people were training us on things like Flipgrid. Those are up there. And I think one of the most valuable resources on here are the video libraries. And I will tell you, I use this quite a bit over the past year and a half. But these are all video libraries that people have given us access to that are free videos. And then down here are subscription libraries. And the same, we have some for our elementary ed classes. There are video libraries there that have videos that can be used in classes. And so this is just something we started throwing together because for me, honestly, there were so many resources, I couldn't keep track of them all. So I needed a place to put them. And you are welcome to use them and welcome to share the website. So, and if you ever need help finding something, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to point you in the direction of where I put it. And then we have about 5 more minutes before Faith joins us, but is there anything anyone wants to share from their breakout session? Or any comments?
It was just nice to hear other people and, you know, their frustrations, because it is frustrating and it feels lonely because not everyone's teaching practicum, you know. So we don't just have to like become Zoom teachers. We also have to figure out how do we imitate a real life experience, and it's just really difficult. And it's nice to hear other people complain too.
Well, Nora, I'm glad you're here. And I am happy to stay on after West Ed if you want to have more time to talk. I'm also happy if you want, we can open up the space again in a couple of weeks and you can come back and we can have more space to talk. And we, with the teacher preparation pipeline, we've been just creating these spaces as people have requested them. So if you need training, let us know. We'll find somebody who can help us train on things. And if you just want to have space to connect, I'm happy to do that too. So that's what this is really, and we're glad you're here. Anyone else want to share what they were talking about, or?
I think one of the things that came up, and either I froze or it was time to transfer, but I was on the thought that, we're talking about the vaccinations and the different rules in different places. And it's not just about getting practicum teachers, student teachers into our centers, but we're preparing them for a profession and for jobs. And so I feel like there's this place where we have to be a little stronger about being clear what this would mean if you are looking for a job in terms of your own personal decision regarding vaccination. So that's sort of a dilemma, not a dilemma so much as a point that I think we're trying to be careful, and we're trying to, do the right thing in regards to communication regarding the COVID vaccinations. But I think that we are, we have to remember that we're also preparing students for a profession as if they were a nursing student or a rad tech student or something else. So I throw that out there. And the only other thing that I think other people talked about in the past is that I did interview some of our former, either our mentors or practicum instructors who worked with students and young children, just to have them tell a story, not just about their life career, but really when a student walks in your room as a practicum student, what do they see, and what's sort of it's all as real and yet pretend as possible and within a safe environment. So that has been successful because the people that were interviewed were also started their career as community college students. And so the students who listened to them could really relate to the progression of these now either, faculty members now or directors or other mentor teachers. But it's still, I feel with Nora because we thought we had everything figured out just a few minutes ago. And while I was on, the phone rang and something else came up about the center. So it's been an interesting challenge.
Yeah, we've been back at our center, and I feel like we've been operating now for 4 weeks, and every week for maybe it's 3 weeks. I can't. It feels like week 12 of the semester, but every week we've gotten a phone call at the end of the week going, I have COVID, and I was okay at the center, but when I left, I felt sick, and it's like I can't spend the entire semester doing this. So I get that. Have we heard from licensing yet? Has anybody heard from licensing yet about whether the vaccine will be required, like the other vaccines?
So I spoke to our analyst a couple of weeks ago about it, and what he said is that any changes to requirements on the regulations is a 2-year process. And so that hasn't even, as far as he knows, it hadn't even started yet. So until licensing really mandates it for all adults in this space, it's really hard for us to vocalize to our students, even though it's morally the best thing to do for them in their future. We can't say that they have to have it. So there's that fine line.
And very rarely has licensing ever mandated something like that. That didn't come directly from legislative law, right? Like the Protestas change. Then it happened really quickly when they put it into law. But licensing is not necessarily going to be the person. They would rather it be delegated by local communities and local choice. They don't put anything on their plate on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody heard anything about with Biden's announcement yesterday of federal employees and contractors, if Head Start is going to require? Right, that's what I heard.
Yeah,
head shaking yes. So we're just kind of waiting to hear for that. We have a contract with Head Start, so they do provide some of the funding for our lab school. So we're just kind of waiting to hear from them directly.
Are parents told that some of the people that are working with your children may not be vaccinated? Are they, in other words, are parents who are enrolling their children assuming that the staff is vaccinated and they may or may not be?
I know at our college, our district, they're requiring the vaccination for all students who are going to be on ground as of October 15th.
Right.
And so we're going to be not having that issue, but I will say my students have been so diligent that when I've asked them to bring in other vaccination records, they are like, here's my COVID card. Like they are presenting it, even though we're not asking for that.
I've had the same happen with my Practicum students. They came in, and many of them are already working in the field, but they came in and said, "Dr. Vaccination, here's my COVID card. Where am I going now?" And so they were ready. It's my curriculum students who are not as experienced and younger age-wise that are very, very fearful and putting up resistance.
I hate to cut this conversation short, but I want to make sure we have time for Faith in the discussion. She really needs our feedback. But I will stay on after. So if you would like to continue this or talk about anything else practicum wise, please hang out with me. I'll finish my tea while we talk. So let me see if I can there's Faith. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thanks, Rachel. And I'd like to thank TPP for giving us more of your time and all of you for allowing us some space to talk to you about what we've been up to. Some of you have been part of this journey, which feels like it has been forever for those of us who have been living it, and others of you might be new. So let me just briefly introduce myself. I'm Faith Polk. I currently work at West Ed. I am formerly the chair of an early childhood program, baccalaureate program at a private institution. So I do have a faculty background and wear that lens as well as a content development lens. And I want to share some context for why I'm here. And then I want to get some feedback on where we are so far in this process. So I'm going to start with the California Vision for All Children, because that's how this all started, and then briefly talk about the Preschool Development Grant Renewal. And then lastly, really share what we've been doing and how we've been gathering feedback and moving forward to implement part of the PDGR or Preschool Development Grant Renewal that is under West Ed's purview. So some of you have probably seen this vision before. Some of you have been with us along this journey and are probably tired of hearing the same thing, but others, this is new. So I want to kind of jump back in time. We know that California envisions a future in which all children birth to 5 and their families and communities thrive through an effective and impactful early learning and care mixed delivery system that efficiently is connected a range of child, family, and program supports. The master plan puts at center stage the need to support the diverse early learning and care workforce. And I don't mean just the diversity of providers themselves, but also the diversity of the centers and paying more attention to family, friend, and neighbor and family child care and non-subsidized center base. We know that the vast majority of children 0 to 5 are cared for outside of state preschool. And so there's a whole section of the workforce that may not be touched by our higher education at this point. So there's a theory of change that was written into the master plan and thoughtfulness about if the early childhood professionals, meaning everybody in the mixed delivery system, can access competency-based job-embedded professional development when they need it, so meaning asynchronous, and the professional development can articulate toward units or permits, which is a long-term goal, then we'll have a more equitable structure to support higher wages, a sustainable workforce, and improved outcomes. So part of this vision is creating a centralized hub for comprehensive, user-friendly professional development for the early childhood workforce.
Sweetie, I'm going to have to go. I have to do.
And having engaging competency-based interactive coaching integrated into that system. And this becomes a frame for compensation and tiered reimbursement that's discussed in the master plan. And this system would be available 24/7, both on and offline, and meet the needs of the mixed delivery system providers. And so that brings us to what we are calling, and I say we, when I say we, I'm not talking about WestEd we right now, I'm talking about the state we. The vision is the Center for Professional Development Innovations. And the beautiful thing about this work is that we're leveraging a lot from prior efforts. The vision builds on the great work of the early childhood profession at the state, regional, and local efforts over the last several decades. It includes investments in Quality Start, or QCC, Quality Counts California, the Preschool Development Grant Initial, Transforming the Workforce Birth to 8, the Blue Ribbon Commission, and many, many other efforts over the years. And the goal of this project is to elevate what works and build on the strong body of evidence-based research and practice. It is not to duplicate efforts in the state, but to pull it together into a structure that's equitable and accessible and relevant to the field and is responsive to their needs based on where they are in the moment, and strengthens connections to existing systems. This really means filling the gaps with new content and technology, and developing a structure that establishes alignment and strengthens connections to existing systems like Quality Counts California, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and the Workforce Registry. I'm going to go through these quickly to allow some time for questions, because I really want to spend time in breakout groups getting some feedback on where we're at. So a lot of work has been done prior to COVID and at the beginning of COVID, examining the needs of the current needs of the field and getting their ideas on the best way to access independent learning activities in real time. So in designing this California Center for Professional Development and Innovations, that's like an online platform that will house multiple professional development courses funded by a lot of agencies, but commonly they'll feature real California educators in photos, videos, and examples, and that will be across a spectrum of settings. The idea also is to really democratize expertise. There are selfie videos that are taken by practitioners in the field that elevate and include the strengths-based approaches they're already using. Everything will be job embedded and have immediate applicability. So you could go in and say, oh, you know, I'm really feeling unfamiliar with hazardous waste disposal. And they could find a quick 15-minute lesson on how you do that, as an example. The lessons will be about 15-minute chunks to maximize learner attention. And there will be flexible formats in that everything's designed for asynchronous as the default, so that learners can access whenever they want and in whatever way, very mobile friendly. But there also will be a facilitator's guide, so that if folks want to lead cohorts through courses, they certainly can do that with some guidance, or they can choose to do it on their own. Another feature will be that Wi-Fi, continuous Wi-Fi is not required. So they can download something on their phone before they leave for the bus that morning or the train, whatever way they're going somewhere. If they're not going to have access, or they have access to Wi-Fi at a site, but not necessarily at home, they can complete pieces of the professional development and then get back online, and it will be there for them. Everything will be aligned to the California key tools and resources, the foundations and frameworks, the teaching performance expectations, and then also there are 2 leadership courses that are not focused on higher ed, but or being developed in conjunction, but those are based on the early childhood education, teaching, and administrator performance expectations. The idea is that everything will be strength-based and respectful and focus on resilient, curious, relationship-based learning. There's also embedded lenses of diversity, equity, anti-racism, and full inclusion of children with disabilities, supports for multilingual learners, and strong adult child interactions, and that will be across courses. So it's going to take a lot to make this happen, and there are multiple cross-agency partnerships that are funding the current content that's being developed. So if you look at the left-hand column, CHHS through the Preschool Development Grant Renewal is responsible for, we're developing 100 hours of online content. It's 50 hours in English and 50 hours, the same 50 hours in Spanish. There's coach professional development, coaching certification, and virtual coaching support. First Five Impact is also funding some work. It's yet to be determined what they're funding. Some of you may have heard that under another hat I wear, we were conducting a landscape assessment with the R&Rs and other stakeholders on what's most needed for family child care providers and family friend and neighbor providers, and non-subsidized. That's First Five really wants to fill the gaps there. And the findings really suggest that things need to be translated into languages other than English and Spanish. We also did hear from higher ed groups in our listening sessions that we've conducted in the past related to the work I'm here today to discuss, that we know the foundations and frameworks aren't 508 compliant and they're only available in English and Spanish. Unfortunately, that's beyond First Five's purview. Those documents belong to CDE. So that message has been brought forward to CDE that is a need. And then CDE, under old CDE contracts that now move to CDSS, there's the health and safety that I just mentioned, implicit bias, trauma-informed care, STEAM, family child care at its best, and coaching. And those are all pieces that are being developed in those various funding streams. The reason I'm here today is really about the Preschool Development Grant Renewal. You can give me a thumbs up if you've heard about PDGR. You probably have, because many of you are probably part of the TPE or TPA design teams. Those are PDGR funded, and CTC, I saw Debbie is here, holds that work. But we hold another part of that work. But this grant in general, the federal purpose of it is really to maximize the availability of high quality options for high impact families and to streamline administrative structure, improve state level early learning and care funding efficiency, and improve quality of care, which means improving and building on the skills of the existing workforce. The pieces that WestEd holds, I mentioned before, one is developing 200 hours of content. I see that the slides are different. It is 200 hours, sorry. It's 100 hours in English and 100 hours in Spanish. And then number two is why I'm here right now, establishing partnerships with higher education to support the early learning and care workforce. You all are critical to workforce development, and we want to work together to support the full range of the workforce. And then you see the coaching and the coaching platform there. So for the last several months, it might be more than 8 months now, WestEd staff and early childhood faculty and college and university leadership have discussed a variety of options for the collaboration articulated in the PDGR tasks in WestEd's purview. Long ago, far away, I spoke with lots of people. The initial idea was to create unit-bearing courses that would be accessible to everybody. that we know that wasn't going to work. That is not the direction we're going. And we really heard the voices. We were able to change the scope of work thanks to the hardworking ECE faculty and administration across the state. And when we went away from the unit bearing idea, we started to hold a series of listening sessions and ongoing conversations with ECE faculty and leadership, like with groups like TPP, PEACH, and I could list all the acronyms soup, that OER was also a part of, BPECHI. Who am I missing, Rachel?
Tri-CECE.
Tri-CECE, thank you. And I'm not going to go into the names of each one of those because they're quite large, but it has been an ongoing process. And together we identified 2 ways we could collaborate to develop non-unit bearing professional development experiences to support the early learning and care workforce in a mixed delivery system. Together, we'll develop content that's focused on career pathways in early learning and care, and then modules that provide practical content that serve as bridges for success into higher education. At one point, you may have heard that those were called stepping stones into CAP 8 or stepping stones into lower division courses. And we held those 3 listening sessions in July, and it was very clear that that was not needed by faculty or by students, but rather there were other topics that faculty thought were more important and useful in supporting early learning and care students. And then today, the purpose is to really hear from you about, I'm going to share with you some proposed, again, non-unit bearing courses, and they're very short courses. They're an hour to 2 hours. I want to share the tentative titles with you and get some feedback. But before we move into breakouts to do that, I'm watching my time. And I want to let you ask any questions you might have about this work so far.
One thing I was sort of thinking about were some of the like back catalog of things that WestEd and the California Department of Education have done together. And I can't remember if like that the one that accompanies the California preschool like English learners video, it's like a world of language or something. Mm-hmm. Those are so valuable, but it's, you know, like I was adjunct for a long time, so I was like, couldn't find them, and I couldn't find them with transcriptions. And so stuff like that, if there were like, you know, there's just a lot of resources that are already pretty rich. And then the like PD to go from First 5, like, I don't think those have like the accessible transcripts on them. But anyway, so that's what I was just wanting to know about.
Thank you for bringing that up and sharing your ideas. We do know that Worldful of Language is supposed to be on the CDE streaming services site, which may or may not work for you. It's supposed to be free now. But I've heard there have been some challenges in accessing it. So those videos will be incorporated into other courses that we are developing under PDGR, but not specifically in collaboration with higher ed. And I'm sorry, I didn't bring the list of courses that the advisory group and I'm talking about the PDGR advisory group, and then there's a larger advisory group for the whole Center for Professional Development Innovations. And prior work was conducted asking practitioners what kind of course work they would like and what kind of PD they need. One of the courses that came out of that was a short course on supporting what we're now going to refer to as multilingual learners, and DLLs are a part of that group. So you'll see some of those videos from Worldful of Language embedded. So any resources we've already created will be moving over to the system if they're still viable, but a lot of the things from SECO that seem kind of flat and boring. Rachel, don't share that I said that. I know you're recording this, so I don't know where the recording's going to go, but I know some of them are less than engaging. The budget's a little different, and the rationale behind this is a little different. Some of those things will move over to the new platform, and then others will, the content will be updated and repurposed and be more in this smaller bite-sized format. So we won't lose those resources that you find so valuable. Any other questions so far?
You don't have any in the chat box either.
Yeah, I didn't see them, so I'm gonna go on. Thank you for monitoring the chat box for me, Rachel. It's very helpful. Usually Julie and I work in tandem. So from the listening sessions and additional conversations, also with Phyllis at CTC and with the ECE leadership groups, the topics that were identified that we would collaborate on are career pathways in early learning and care. What came out really strongly from listening sessions was the importance of reflection and really explaining what reflection is. If it doesn't have a time, if the title doesn't have a time on it, it's a 1 hour module. Those are broken up into 15-minute or less learning chunks. So reflection supports our work with young children, ways children learn through play. What does developmentally appropriate practice mean? Teaching performance expectations in action. We will draw from some of the presentations that CTC has done, but reframing with your support to make them meaningful to prospective students and current students. Also, what is a TPA and why will I benefit from it, since we're encouraging folks who don't need to do it to also do a TPA. And then what's it like to be an early care and education student? These are the course titles that emerged from our prior discussions. And we're gonna go into breakout rooms in a minute so that you have an easier time discussing it in small groups. And I've prepared some Google Sheets. So I'm gonna ask if when you get into your breakout rooms, I'm gonna stop sharing this and share what that Google Sheet looks like.
And Faith, I've already put them in the chat box. And they are labeled group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. So when you go in there, you should be able to see the group.
Great, thank you. So just to share briefly to make sure that you all know what I'm asking you to do in your conversation is to respond to the title. Like, does that sound interesting to you, or not to you, but do you think it would be useful for your prospective students? Do you have a better way to say it? And then what would you expect course participants, again, these are non-unit bearing courses, to know and be able to do after completing the course? And then if you have any other feedback about that particular title. And there are 7 titles here. So if we don't have that much time, I think, Rachel, your meeting goes till 2:30, but people can stay on later. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing we can do is leave these Google Sheets up for you for a couple days. So if you have some thoughts that come to you, you're welcome to go in and add them later. But right now, I'd like to go into breakouts and have you share your feedback with us. Rachel, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay, I put the breakout rooms in accordance with the number of documents, but I am having computer issues all of a sudden. So if you could send them, hopefully you have the ability to do that.
Let me see if I still do. I do. Can I just,
You should be able to just click create, start rooms.
Oh. can I just click open all rooms? Is
Yep.
that okay? Thank you, everybody. I greatly appreciate your support. And if you have comments or questions or whatever, please feel free to email me after the meeting or poke into my breakout room. See you soon.
I am having some major problems with my.
Yeah, you got muted again, Rachel.
Oh, I'm having some problems with my computer, so.
Hi, Renee.
Hi, Kate.
Renee.
Hey, everybody.
Oh,
Sorry.
good. Patricia's here as well. Great.